Chapter 12. I know plenty of people who never got into anime and manga, and they would have no idea what a neko is. Neko musume, basically cat girls, appear all over Japanese popular culture. Sometimes they're just regular girls with cat ears, and sometimes they're more like cat and human hybrids. I don't know much about them, except that the idea derived from the baka neko, a supernatural cat from Japanese folklore. Some people, guys and girls, get really into the whole neko thing, decorating their rooms with posters, going for cosplay, and all that. I had never been one of those people, or even had an extended conversation with one, so all I knew about the neko fandom was that it existed, and you could go to cons and sometimes see girls dressed up like cats. Anyway, standing by her table was a guy at least 1.5 feet taller than Tamret, and that was without counting his antlers. He wore a kind of sleeveless white robe, belted in the middle, and his own short brown fur with dark brown spots didn't disguise his well-muscled physique. He also had a head like a deer, or sort of like a deer. He was a deer the way that Tamret was a cat. Mingling amid the antlers was a number 23, so without going by appearances, I knew he was at least a little older than we were. Maybe a lot older. You can't really tell with deer people. "Oi!" Steve called. "Tamret!" She looked over and waved at Steve, and then she saw me. Her eyes went wide, and then narrowed, and then she looked away and went back to talking to the deer guy. Steve walked over to an empty table and took a seat facing Tamret's direction. I noticed there were all kinds of chairs, available to accommodate a wide variety of body types. Steve opted for something like a bench, and when he sat, he wrapped his tail around his legs, I assume so that no one would step on it. I grabbed something like an actual chair and sat across from Steve. Steve looked over at Tamret, and he let out a long sigh. You big on pheromones?" "What?" It came out a little shrill.
"Pheromones, scents that give off your mood and such. They're kind of a thing, I reckon, for most mammals."
"I don't know anything about that," I told him, searching for the quickest possible way out of the conversation. "And I'm pretty sure I don't give off any smells."
"Are you sure?"
he asked me. He tasted the air with his tongue.
"Because I'm getting something odd off you. Kind of emotional."
"I'm not giving off any kind of emotional stink," I told him. And because sometimes the universe likes to do this sort of thing, specifically to me, that was the exact moment that Tamret appeared at our table. "Hello, boys," she said with a broad grin. Most of her teeth were as flat as a human's, but her canines were well developed and sharp, almost like a vampire's. Still, it was a nice smile, if a lightly unnerving and dangerous one. "I'm not interrupting anything, am I? It sounded like it might be personal." Rather than say anything stupid, I chose to blush and give my name. Zeke Reynolds. "I'm Tamret." "No family names on your world?" I asked. She shrugged. "It's bound up with caste and kind of complicated for people outside our alliance of city-states. Tamret is good for now." She looked away for a moment and then back at me. Another smile. "We're glad you finally made it." She sat next to Steve and then fussed for a moment with her hair, unbinding it and then rebinding it again. Steve gestured with a lizard thumb towards the bar. No doubts at the deer guy.
"You make friends with that bloke?"
"Oh, in his dreams," she said, rolling her big lavender eyes. "Antlers are not my thing." I found myself strangely relieved. Right away, I thought there was something compelling about Tamret. The fact that she looked like a sci-fi icon, even if it wasn't my sci-fi icon, didn't hurt, but there was more to it than that. Some people give off a vibe. Who knows, maybe it is pheromones. But it makes you want them to like you. It was as simple as that. I felt a desperate need to get her to like me, but I wasn't much helping my cause sitting here like a total dud. "You look confused," she said to me. "You're not, slow or something, are you?"
"Oh, I thought that too," Steve assured her. "Turns out he's just shy, and maybe a little slow."
"I'm not shy," I said, maybe a little too defensively. "Or slow. There's just a lot to take in on my first day." Tamret grinned with infectious charm. She had already moved on. "Oh, and sorry about breaking into your room. That wasn't entirely nice of me, I know. It's just that they told me breaking into the rooms was impossible, so I kind of felt the need to tinker with it. I wanted to see what passes for 100% secure around here."
"It took her 3 minutes to crack it,"
Steve said. "It was easy," she told me, looking pleased with herself. Her short whiskers twitched when she smiled. "I didn't go through your things."
"That's 'cause I wouldn't let her,"
Steve said. I was curious, she admitted, but I restrained myself.
Because I wouldn't let her, Steve said.
Look, am I going to be punished for every bad thing I think of but don't do? She asked, clearly enjoying herself. Because that might take a while.
I'm getting the feeling, Steve turned to me, we'll have to watch out for her, mate.
I wanted to say something funny, participate in the banter, but nothing came to mind. I wanted to be one of them, but I felt like a tongue-tied rube. Temret gave me a friendly nudge. Hey, do you know how to order? I have no idea, I said, but it was thrilling. I was thrilled by the idea of her showing me. This was a topic of conversation, just what I needed. I love this alien technology. Okay, you tap like this. She jabbed the pad of one of her white index fingers down on the black surface of the table. The tip of a sharp claw peeked out from her white fur when she made contact. Almost instantly, a menu appeared, written in small yellow script. I tried the same thing and immediately received a line of text at the top of the list. Ezekiel Reynolds, human. Earth, omnivore, no allergies, minor, no stimulants or depressants.
I'm right peckish, Steve said.
I was hungry too, but the food was a little intimidating. Did I want domesticated biped herding animal with tubular vegetable sauce and bitter fruit garnish? It was, the menu informed me, the specialty of the house. Or, if I was inclined, there was fish-like animal in no available translation jelly. Yum. Another temptation was a grain product with bulbous spiny vegetable, fermented seed pods, and yellow mold. I admit it sounded good, but I'm a 12-year-old kid, so in the end I went for a pizza, and hoped for the best. Then I glanced up at the list of drinks to make sure I wasn't ordering urine or poop juice or fermented roadkill, and picked something that I was assured was fruity and carbonated. I tapped what I wanted and then tapped confirm, and the message told me that my order had been received, and the new balance of my account scrolled briefly across the screen. So, Tamret said, once the ordering was out of the way. She propped her elbows on the table and her chin on her folded hands. I get that you're still taking things in, but I'm not going to put up with you being quiet, because you're kind of famous, Zeke. I want to hear everything that happened. Her voice was light and friendly, just like a regular human girl's. Several strands of her hair had broken loose from their confines, and when she leaned forward they fell into her eyes. She absently brushed at them with one of her white hands, and when she saw me watching her, she turned away as though embarrassed. Our drinks came, delivered by a waiter, or possibly waitress, though I'm not sure it was either. It looked like a walking bush, honestly.
Hey guys, got some drinks for you,
the bush said. Its tone was mellow, with almost a surfer's inflection. All 3 glasses were different shapes, mine long and thin, Tamret's more like a bowl, and Steve's narrowed at the top and tapering towards the bottom.
You're like the new initiates, right?
That's right, I said.
That's so windy,
the bush said.
But don't worry, beings, I won't tell anyone you're here. You can be all private and whatever.
The bush was freaking me out with its mellow speech. I figured we had maybe 30 seconds before it called me little dude, but instead it just wandered off. Tamret took a sip of her drink, but her eyes were on me, staring. I realized after a startled instant that she was looking over my head, and I figured she was checking out my number. You didn't get any experience points from destroying an attacking starship? I did, I just haven't leveled yet, I said. I haven't had the chance to figure out what I want to spend my points on. What level would you be if you cashed in your points? They both asked. I hesitated for a moment before telling them. Then I said it. 11. Steve and Tamret looked at each other, and then burst out laughing. At first I thought they were laughing at me, that this was the moment where everything was going to fall apart. Then I realized they were laughing in appreciation. Steve was now shaking his head.
We're not on the station an hour before the other Ishi call me in and tell me I'm meant to keep my distance. They don't want the random dragging them down. The Rarls pull the same stunt with Tamret, and your kind do it to you. But you're at 11, mate. You broke the bloody record for new initiates, and those pillocks are telling you to shove off.
I was pretty surprised it was a universal gesture, but Tamret raised her glass, and we all clinked. Randoms, she said, and we all repeated it like it had become a chant or cheer or a motto. We're going to make them beg for our help, Tamret said. Her eyes were sparkling at the thought of competition.
Let's give those tossers a right run for their money, Steve said.
Tamret was smiling broadly. Should be easy. We've got me, and I'm pretty much great at everything. We've got the Bane of the Phatic Empire, and... She gestured towards Steve with her glass. I guess we'll have to hope you're good for something. Steve opened his mouth in what looked like a grin, and I quickly realized it was just that. A good-natured grin, but with razor-sharp teeth.
Keep talking, mammal. It'll help dull the pain of insecurity.
I think I've got that problem under control, she said.
I hadn't noticed, love.
Steve told her. The bush now returned with our food. My pizza was an unappealing brown cone filled with bluish substance, streaked with white, all of which gave off the general impression of toothpaste. That said, it smelled pretty good. Tamara had ordered a dish of what appeared to be some kind of grain and vegetable. Steve had a goldfish bowl full of yellow and brown spotted rat-like creatures that scurried around over one another, squeaking anxiously.
Brilliant, but can I trouble you for some spicy insect sauce?
Steve asked the bush.
Oh, sure, man,
the bush said as it headed away.
My fault, it completely slipped my synaptic bundle.
I looked at Steve, who was busy examining the panicking contents of the bowl. He flashed his tongue towards the opening.
This looks quite nice, he said. Smells all right, too.
You're going to eat those? I asked. He held up both of his hands, palm up.
It's the Ishi way.
Wait a minute, I said. How does the food production unit make living things?
Oh, they're not really alive,
the bush waiter said as it returned with a small bowl of brownish liquid and the little translucent wings and bits of insect carapace floating on the top.
They're chunks of synthesized protein, but your HUD creates the illusion that they're living creatures.
Steve held one up. It wriggled in his hand, and his tongue darted out.
Looks like a rat-like creature to me.
The chunks of synthetic protein let out an alarmed squeak as Steve dunked it in the spicy insect sauce and then popped it into his mouth. It cried out one last time, and then all we heard was a sickening crunch. I think, that Tamara said, what you bring to our trio is your ability to gross everyone out.
Don't judge other beings,
the bush said as it headed away from the table.
We're all beautiful.
These are good, Steve said, holding up another wriggling hot sauce-covered animal.
You want one?
The protein clump bared its sharp little teeth and hissed at me. It's not the most disgusting thing I've ever seen someone eat, I said. Have you met any of the poop eaters? Tamara asked me. Oh, I've met the poop eaters, I told her, but I don't judge other beings. We're all beautiful, Tamara said, and then the three of us laughed. I basked in the sensation of finally having found a group that accepted me. We were all randoms, bound together. It also turned out that my pizza was pretty good. The blue part of the toothpaste was something not completely dissimilar to cheese, and the white part was some kind of sauce. Not like tomato at all, but not bad in itself. The exterior was flaky and more like a pastry, and the whole thing tasted like pizza the way that a banana tastes like an apple, but even so, on its own terms, it did the job. And it was alien food, which earned some points. The three of us were talking and laughing like we'd known each other for years, and then we were interrupted. It was the deer guy.
Hello, Tamara.
Her ears pivoted sharply a beat before she turned her head. He was standing by the table, looking at us, maybe deer smiling. I don't really know. His voice was smooth and kind of breathy.
You said you were going to introduce me to your friends.
I never said that, she said, turning away.
Actually, you did, he said, his voice still completely relaxed. I know that all of us come from different worlds, and there are different rules, but here at Confederation, you don't make friends by lying to people.
I never lied, Tamrat told him. You said you wanted to meet my friends, and I responded vaguely because I could see that you were pushy, and it's best not to tell pushy people no outright. It just makes them pushier.
Oh, come on,
he said in an untroubled voice of a guy who expects everyone to see everything his way.
Just a little chat, where's the harm?
The harm is that I don't want to, she told him. Her voice was firm, but she didn't bother to make eye contact. Now go away. I'm with my friends, and you're kind of being a creep.
I'm not a creep, he said. I'm a data collector for News Output 371, which, if you kids had been here longer, you would know that it's the most respected news output on the station.
And how long would it have to be before I care? Tamrat asked. He shook his dear head, like we were all sad and pathetic.
I'm trying to help you. Let you tell your stories the way you want them told. You kids are of interest to the media, so You might as well control how you come across. You're Ezekiel Reynolds, right?
He said to me.
Let's talk about how you destroyed the phallic ship. Was it defenseless, as people were saying? Were you hoping to kill everyone on board?
No comment. Was the best response that I could manage. I barely even made eye contact with him.
People are saying that you're a recreational assassin on your homeworld.
The reporter or data collector or whatever he was continued.
They say that everyone commits murder there. Is that true?
Enough of this bashful business, I thought. I looked up and met his brown deer eyes, and I tried to think of something cool to say, something that would impress my new friends. Go away. Okay, so that could have gone better. The deer guy sort of half shrugged. He had this whole cutesy coy thing going on that I couldn't stand. Or maybe that's just how deer guys were.
You can talk to me, or I can send some messages, and 50 data collectors will come through the front door before you can even call an elevator. Which way you want to go, it's fine with me either way.
Steve dropped one of his rat-like things back into the goldfish bowl. While it tried to scurry under its remaining fellow protein clumps, Steve slowly wiped his hands on his napkin, and then stood. He was considerably younger than the deer guy, and certainly shorter, even if you didn't count the antlers. For all that, he held himself like he was completely unintimidated, though.
My friend made it clear that they don't want to talk, Steve said. Now you're threatening us? It's time to go.
The deer guy looked at the rats in the goldfish bowl, and scrunched his face in disdain.
A predator species? Fantastic. As far as I'm concerned, you're what's wrong with the Confederation. And as far as I'm concerned, Steve said, I don't give a toss. Walk away, mate, and don't come back. And don't send any of your reporter friends looking for us. Otherwise, I may just have to come looking for you. We've got animals that look like you on my world, and I have a feeling you'd be just a little bit delicious.
He flicked his tongue in the air. The deer guy backed away without another word, and hurried out of the bar. Steve sat down, grabbed a rodent from his bowl, and gestured at Tamrat with it.
That, love, is what I can do. I can scrap. You got Zeke there for long distance, but close up, I'm your bloke.
You just threatened to eat that guy, I said. And he's an adult.
Maybe we eat adults on my world, Steve said. Maybe we don't. He doesn't know that, does he?
That was pretty good, Tamrat said, nodding in appreciation. I think we'll keep you. It was also not lost on me that it had been Steve, not me, who had stood up to defend Tamrat. I'd cowered in my seat. Okay, maybe not coward, but I hadn't been all tough and reptilian Jason Statham like Steve. I'd been too intimidated by the data collector being an adult and having antlers and knowing how things worked around here. Next time, I vowed I would take charge. Tamrat now raised her glass again. Here's what I say. All 3 worlds. That's a deal? We watch each other's backs and we all get in. The kids in our delegation may be complete jerks, but we carry them, so we all make it. We clinked again. Tamrat looked at me, meeting my gaze, and then turned away like something embarrassed her. Maybe I'd been staring a little too long. I had the feeling she expected me to make a toast, so I raised my glass. I never met a Granari, and it looks like maybe I never will, but on the shuttle I watched get destroyed, there were 4 kids just like us, and one of them would be sitting here with us right now, if they hadn't been murdered. I raised my glass a little higher. To the Granari! The Granari, they agreed in unison. It was the best moment I'd had since leaving home. For a moment, I forgot about the rejection, and the danger, and the terrifying brush with death. For that instant, being in outer space was exactly what I'd hoped it would be.